I see sexual energy as probably the most powerful energy in this world. It's creative energy. It's creative life force. You could create a whole human being with a sex, obviously, right? So that, and that's like the pinnacle. But it can also be used that, you know, and I've been there, like I've done crazy things for women and you know, like, like I'd fly them here and this and that, like with the...
You've spent way too much money and way too much time
so much
trying to chase some hedonistic bullshit.
For sure. So I see the power of women and they're the most beautiful beings in the world and they're so deep and all this thing.
God, they're amazing.
It's such
women,
a mystery.
Y'all are amazing.
Amazing. I love
so
women.
amazing.
I always have, you know, it was my vice for a long time. So I know that they have the power, right? They have, and sexual energy is so powerful. It could capture our attention so easily. And so I see it as it's a setup in the game. Like it's the ultimate distraction because it's all about capturing the human being's attention. Because whatever you put your attention into will grow, will flourish. You know, energy flows where focus goes. So it's all about capturing the attention. So what's the most alluring, distracting thing? Well, tits and ass and beautiful curves and all this, and the possibility that you might get with this girl if you get enough money in the matrix. So then it keeps you going down this rabbit hole because you got to build and consume to get this, and then you feel whole. It's all a trap. It's all a scam. So it's like realizing that, and then realizing, okay, where does that even take you? You get the girl with the big ass and the nice tits, and okay, you get her, and then you have sex, and then you just blow your load. Like you've just released all that energy that it would build you up to get there. So what if you channel that energy into something else? What if you channel into building a company or building even a family, or, you know, but and that's why I see now, you know, I'm a hypocrite because I'm 40 years old, but I'm seeing the opposite of it. Is like, what if you wait to marriage to have sex, like, and you just build that energy and build a foundation with your fiance and your loved one, and like, it's not all about the sex, right? Like sex is amazing, and it's the closest you could probably get to God, especially when you're in love and in union and sacred union, like you mentioned. Yeah. But it also can be like the darkest, shamest, like weirdest place, you know, if you let it go there. And I've been there too. So it's like, it's such a paradox, and it's so powerful. I think sexual energy is the most powerful energy in the world, and everything's energy. So it's like to be really careful and be really intentional with where we put our sexual energy, and we could channel that energy. And Mantak Chia talks about that. I'm reading his book right now. It's awesome. And he says that, you know, Asian emperors used to pass this code down to their sons, like, okay, you hold the chi, you hold the seed. And this was the code of all codes that they didn't let any of the servants know or any of the common folk know. It was like, no, you hold the chi no matter what. You could have sex, but don't release the seed. And then the energy just builds and builds and builds and builds. And you know, I saw it last year with myself, and I saw it with the people that I learned this from, was like, you build that energy and it stacks and it stacks and it stacks. And then you focus that energy on something and it will grow, you know? And there's a lot of kids talking about this these days, which is pretty cool. Like they're starting to get it. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's actually even, I want to say, new thought. And Napoleon Hill, early 1900s, where he talked about sexual transmutation.
Yes, that's it.
That is a big one. He even talked about, I believe there was this model where he was describing, like, there was this beautiful secretary and her sex energy was the motivation part of for the CEO to succeed, because he was inspired by her femininity. He was inspired by that sex energy. For sure. But here's the key. He didn't abuse it. He didn't have sex with his secretary. He just witnessed her in her fullness, in her vibration. And he was so inspired by just being around her vibe that it helped his company succeed. And that is actually a really big one. But the tactical is, how the hell do you wait that long? How do you go 6 months? What do you do with the urge? Because really that's coming from a primal place, right? And stack on top of that lowercase t, capital T trauma, the way we orient to sex. There's so many different recipes and ingredients as to how we even would show up to that moment of craving. But in that moment of craving, do you remember one moment of craving where you're like, wow, if I don't bust a nut right now, or if I don't climax, is a better way to say it. If I don't climax right now, I feel like I might explode.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How did you get from that place of intense craving dropping back in your body and transmuting that sex energy for productivity. How exactly did you do that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. I remember the exact moment. I just got back from Miami. And, you know, if anyone's been to Miami lately, it's crazy. Like
there's thongs everywhere.
There's thongs. There's beautiful, curvy women everywhere. It's like, it's ridiculous. Like it is the peak of this Matrix game. Like it is the ultimate temptation place right now.
I can imagine.
So I just got back from Miami and I'm like, you know, I'm 6 months in at this point. I think I'm like 5.5 months in of the celibacy and the semen retention. So I'm like, my energy is super strong and I'm crushing it. You know, I'm at conferences and stuff like that. I'm attracting a lot of women, but I'm staying focused. And I just got back to Austin from Miami, and I had 2 different girls reach out to me that weekend, and they were, you know, being aggressive. They were going for it. They're like, "Hey, what are you doing? Let's hang out. Let's," you know. And then one starts sending pictures and videos. And
it's almost like they sense like the feminine. And please, y'all, write or comment because I'm learning. They almost sense when you don't want it.
Yeah.
And it's so attractive and intoxicating when a man doesn't want sex. Because it opens up this capacity for the feminine to choose if she wants it or not. And it's so rare for her to feel that way.
Right.
That she's like, oh, this is tantalizing.
For sure.
It's so funny how that plays out.
It's so true. It's a paradox. And I got to experience that all last year. It was like, you know, women were all over me. God bless them. But it's an energetical thing because I was holding the energy, right? I had my seed, I had the power, I had self-mastery. And I think that's super attractive to anybody is self-mastery.
Yes. The self-mastery.
It's a code, right?
Yeah,
and most people these days don't have it. I'm not saying I have it, but for those 5 months, 6 months, I was getting there, you know, I was still a student, but I was getting there and I could see how women would react to that. And it was awesome. You know, it was intoxicating. And so that weekend, that's just to answer your question, that's when I reached my peak where I was like these 2 individual girls, they didn't know about each other, both messaging me, both very attractive and sending videos. And, you know, it was getting pretty tantalizing. It was getting pretty tempting. And I was like, holy shit, I was reaching a peak. You know, I was like, hey, do I just do this right now? Do I invite one over? Do I invite both over? And that was like the peak of my temptation. And I honestly just got on my knees and I prayed. I prayed to God. I said, God, please help me get through this weekend. You know, don't let me do something that I'm going to regret. I made it this far with the faith that I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for my highest good. I'm doing this for eons. I'm doing this for my family and future family and all this kind of stuff. So just get me through this, God. And I just prayed. And it passed, you know, the feeling passed. And then I went and kept myself busy with pickleball or go for a run or something like that. You got to channel the energy for sure. You got to channel the energy because like you'll just get so pent up. And Mantak Jia talks about that. You got to breathe. You got to circulate it. You got to bring it throughout your whole being. So it's not just in your lower chakra, the survival chakra, the primal, like just wants to release and fuck, you know, you got to move it around. So I went to go move it around and it passed, you know, and then literally within 2 days of that peak temptation, I basically met what became my girlfriend, and she had been celibate for 2 years. She was incredibly, you know, what a woman. I'd never met a woman like this before. Incredibly deep, incredibly profound spiritually, and, you know, had a deep relationship with Jesus. And she said she's been celibate for 2 years, and that's what got me on my celibacy path. So just met this being that I never met before. And yeah, I could have went to old Alex and, you know, had sex with the spiritual Barbie type chick that I was always attracted to. But I was like, no, I finally got past that level of the game.
Spiritual Barbie.
Yeah. And then God presented me with a new path, you know, and it was someone that was like sacred union potential, you know, and, you know, it didn't necessarily work out, but what I learned throughout that was some of the most valuable lessons in my life.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Click the link if you want to watch the full episode, and I will see you in the next video.